All right, so are you ready to like really like dive deep into some like big existential questions? Um, you shared that draft script for Lose Yourself to Unchanging Consciousness, Breaking Free from Yourself from the Soul Streams podcast. And I have to say, like, just the title alone, had me completely hooked.
Yeah, it's a concept that's been around for centuries, you
Yeah.
know? This whole idea of finding everything by losing yourself, you know? It's definitely paradoxical.
Exactly. And the script just like jumps right into it, exploring the limitations of the ego and the possibility of reaching a state of, well, they call it unchanging consciousness, but what does that even mean?
Yeah, so it's a state of being that's free from the constant fluctuations of the ego.
Yeah.
It's a state of pure awareness that's not bound by time or circumstance. Think of it as the ocean ever-present and unchanging, while the waves on its surface represent the ever-changing thoughts and emotions of the ego.
Okay, I'm starting to get the picture.
Yeah.
And the script uses this ticking clock metaphor for the ego,
Right.
which really resonated with me. It's like that constant chatter in our minds, always reminding us of who we are, what we need to do, where we need to be.
It's that incessant voice that tells us we're separate from everything and everyone else, reinforcing the illusion of individuality, which is why the script argues that this separation is actually the root of our suffering.
Because the more we cling to this limited sense of self, the more we feel isolated and disconnected.
Precisely. We get so caught up in our own little world, striving for things we think will bring us happiness, that we miss out on the interconnectedness of it all. And the script suggests that this pursuit of external validation is actually a sign that we're seeking something deeper, a sense of wholeness that can only be found within.
So it's not that our desires are inherently bad. It's more about understanding the motivations behind them. Like that yearning for a bigger house might actually be a yearning for security or belonging.
Exactly. And the script encourages us to examine those desires,
Yeah.
to ask ourselves what it is we're truly seeking, because when we understand the root of our desires, we can start to address them in a more meaningful way.
And this brings us to the idea of meditation and action,
Right.
which I thought was a really powerful concept. It's not about escaping from the world, but about finding that stillness within ourselves,
Yeah.
even amidst the chaos of everyday life.
Yeah. The script argues that every moment, even the most mundane, has the potential to be a meditative experience. Washing the dishes, walking the dog, even sitting in traffic can become opportunities for cultivating mindfulness if we approach them with the right intention.
So it's not about adding another item to our to-do lists. It's about shifting our perspective on the things we're already doing.
Exactly. And this shift in perspective is essential for dissolving the sticky residue of karma, which the script describes as the imprint of our intentions and actions on the universe.
Okay, so karma isn't some cosmic punishment system. It's more like the ripple effect of our choices.
Think of it as energy. Every thought, word, and action creates a ripple that extends outward, impacting not only ourselves, but the world around us. The script emphasizes that when we act with attachment to outcomes, clinging to desires and expectations, we create more of those karmic ripples. But when we act with mindfulness, surrender, and a sense of joy, those ripples dissolve.
So by detaching from the need to control everything,
Yeah.
we're actually creating more peace and harmony in the universe.
Precisely. And this brings us to the concept of questioning everything, which the script emphasizes as a crucial step on the path to liberation.
Questioning everything, that sounds a bit daunting.
It's not about rejecting everything you believe, but about examining those beliefs with a critical eye. The script challenges us to ask ourselves, is this really true, or is this just something I've been told? Or does this belief serve me, or is it holding me back?
So it's about dismantling those limiting beliefs that keep us trapped in the cycle of suffering.
Exactly. And to help us on that journey, the script outlines 4 practical steps we can take to move towards this state of surrender and interconnectedness.
Okay, I'm all ears. What's step 1?
The first step is to pause and reflect. Before we jump headfirst into fulfilling every desire, the script suggests is taking a moment to examine the desire itself. It encourages us to ask, what's driving this desire? Will fulfilling it truly bring lasting peace and happiness, or is it just a temporary fix?
That's so important. It's like taking a breath before we react, giving ourselves space to make conscious choices, rather than being driven by unconscious impulses. What about step 2?
Step 2 builds on this awareness
Yeah.
by encouraging us to fully immerse ourselves in the present moment, whatever you're doing, whether it's walking, talking, or simply breathing, bring your full attention to it.
It's like that saying, chop wood, carry water. Even the most mundane tasks can become sacred rituals when we approach them with presence and intention.
Exactly. And this brings us to step 3, which is about letting go of outcomes. It's about shifting our focus from the result of our actions to the action itself.
So it's about enjoying the journey rather than obsessing over the destination.
Precisely. The script reminds us that we have control over our efforts, but the outcome is ultimately not in our hands. This idea is beautifully captured in the Bhagavad Gita, which says, "You have a right to perform your prescribed duty, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action."
That's a powerful reminder to surrender to the flow of life, trusting that things will unfold as they should, which leads us to the final step.
The final step, which ties everything together, is about cultivating gratitude. It's about finding joy in what we already have rather than constantly chasing what we lack.
This is where the script gets really insightful. It suggests that gratitude is the key to transforming striving into contentment.
It's about recognizing the abundance that already surrounds us, appreciating the simple blessings in our lives, and shifting our focus from scarcity to abundance.
Hmm.
When we cultivate gratitude, it naturally dissolves the grip of desire and attachment.
These 4 steps, they seem simple enough on the surface,
Mhm.
but I imagine they require a lot of conscious effort to actually implement. What do you think?
You're right. It's one thing to understand these concepts intellectually, but it's another thing entirely to put them into practice. The real work lies in integrating them into our daily lives, moment by moment.
So how do we do that? Where do we even begin?
The script doesn't offer a prescriptive roadmap, but it does emphasize that this journey is a process of self-discovery. What works for one person may not work for another. The key is to find practices and teachings that resonate with us, that inspire us to live more consciously and authentically.
So it's about experimenting and finding what works for us.
Exactly. And being patient with ourselves along the way. This is not a race to the finish line. It's a lifelong journey of unfolding.
I think that's a good place to pause for now. We've covered a lot of ground, and I'm already feeling a bit overwhelmed. What do you say we take a break and come back to explore the rest of this fascinating script in a bit?
A break sounds like a good idea. Integrating these concepts into daily life is where the real transformation happens.
All right, ready to dive back in?
All right, ready to dive back in. We left off talking about the journey of self-discovery and finding practices that resonate with us. I'm curious to see where the Soulstream's script goes from here.
Well, the script goes on to discuss some of the signs that we're moving in the right direction on this path of spiritual awakening. It's not about achieving some kind of ultimate enlightenment or having a sudden mystical experience, but about subtle shifts in our perception and way of being.
So, what are some of those signs? Like, how do we know if we're actually making progress on this journey of losing ourselves?
Well, one sign the script points to is a sense of inner peace and contentment, regardless of external circumstances. It's about finding that stillness within, even amidst the chaos of life. So it's not that everything in our lives will magically become perfect, but rather that we'll develop a greater capacity to navigate challenges with grace and equanimity.
Exactly. And this inner peace often leads to a deepening sense of compassion and connection with others. When we start to see through the illusion of separateness, we naturally feel more empathy and understanding towards all beings.
It's like recognizing the spark of divinity in everyone we meet, seeing ourselves reflected in the eyes of others.
Precisely. And as this interconnectedness grows, we may also experience a sense of liberation from fear and anxiety. When we realize our true nature is boundless consciousness, the worries and anxieties of the ego start to lose their grip.
Because we realize that we're not our thoughts, our emotions, or our circumstances.
Exactly. We're something much grander and more resilient than that. And as we continue to let go of those limiting beliefs and identities, we may also find ourselves experiencing moments of profound awe and wonder, a sense of the miraculous in the ordinary, a deep appreciation for the beauty and mystery of life.
So this journey of losing yourself isn't about deprivation or self-denial. It's about discovering a deeper, more expansive sense of self.
It's about shedding the limitations of the ego to reveal the radiant, interconnected being that lies within, but it's also a lifelong process, right? It's not like we reach some final destination and then we're done. It's more about constant evolution and refinement.
Sounds like a dance, really. Constantly moving, flowing, adapting to the music of life.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And the beauty of it is that every step we take towards greater awareness and surrender brings us closer to that state of unchanging consciousness, that boundless ocean of being.
That brings me back to something we touched on earlier, this idea of unchanging consciousness.
Mm.
It's a term that's often used in spiritual circles, but I think it can be a bit confusing for people who are new to these concepts.
It's definitely a term that invites deeper exploration. It's not about becoming static or unchanging in the sense of being rigid or inflexible. It's more about tapping into a deeper level of awareness that's not subject to the constant fluctuations of the ego.
So it's about finding that still point within ourselves, the eye of the hurricane, where we can observe the storms of life without being swept away by them.
That's a great analogy. And the Soul Stream script emphasizes that this state of unchanging consciousness isn't something we achieve through effort or striving. It's our natural state of being, always present beneath the surface of our thoughts and emotions.
So it's more about uncovering something that's already there rather than creating something new.
Exactly. And the practices we've been discussing, pausing, immersing, letting go, cultivating gratitude, are all tools that can help us peel back the layers of conditioning and reveal that true self that's already whole and complete.
That's a powerful message, and one that I think a lot of people are yearning to hear.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, the script uses the term unchanging consciousness. But are there other ways to describe this state of being?
Absolutely. Different spiritual traditions use different terms to describe this concept. Some call it pure awareness, others call it the ground of being, and still others refer to it as the kingdom of heaven within. But ultimately, they're all pointing to the same underlying reality, a state of being that's free from the limitations of the ego, a state of boundless love, wisdom, and creativity.
So it's like there are many paths leading to the same mountaintop.
Precisely. And the path we choose is less important than the direction we're heading.
And I love that the Soul Stream script encourages us to find our own path, to experiment with different practices and teachings, and to trust our own inner guidance.
It's about reclaiming our spiritual authority, stepping out of the role of the student and into the role of the explorer.
I think that's a powerful message for anyone who's ever felt lost or confused on their spiritual journey. It's a reminder that we don't need to rely on external authorities to tell us what's true or what's right for us. We have the wisdom within ourselves to find our own way.
And that's where the real magic happens. When we stop looking outside ourselves for answers and start listening to the whispers of our own hearts.
It's like we've been given a treasure map, but the real treasure is the journey itself, the self-discovery and transformation that happens along the way.
And the more we surrender to that journey, the more we realize that we are the treasure we've been seeking all along.
Okay, so we've talked about the signs of progress, the different ways to describe this state of unchanging consciousness, and the importance of finding our own path. Where does the Soul Stream script go from here?
Well, the script doesn't shy away from the challenges of this journey. It acknowledges that letting go of the ego's grip can be a difficult and often uncomfortable process.
Because it requires us to confront our deepest fears and insecurities.
Exactly. The ego will fight tooth and nail to maintain its control because it's terrified of annihilation. But the script reminds us that this fear is an illusion.
Because we're not actually destroying ourselves, we're simply shedding the limitations that have been keeping us small.
Precisely. And as we let go of those limitations, we open ourselves up to a vastness and freedom that we never could have imagined.
That's a beautiful image. It's like we're caterpillars transforming into butterflies, shedding our old skins to reveal our true potential. But I imagine this process can be quite messy and disorienting at times.
It certainly can be. The script even uses the metaphor of a dark night of the soul to describe this period of transition, where we may feel lost, confused, and even despairing.
So it's not all sunshine and roses on this path of spiritual awakening.
Not always, but the script reminds us that these challenges are an essential part of the process. It's in those moments of darkness that we're forced to confront our deepest shadows and let go of everything we thought we knew about ourselves.
And it's on the other side of that darkness that we emerge transformed, stronger, and more resilient than ever before.
Precisely. And the Soulstream script offers some practical advice for navigating these challenging times.
Like what?
Well, it emphasizes the importance of self-compassion, reminding us to be gentle with ourselves as we navigate these unfamiliar waters. It also encourages us to seek support from others who are on a similar path, whether it's through spiritual communities therapy or simply connecting with like-minded friends.
So we don't have to go it alone.
Absolutely not. And it also reminds us that the ego will try to use these challenging times to pull us back into its grip. It will whisper doubts and fears in our ears, trying to convince us that this whole journey is a mistake.
So we need to be vigilant, aware of those negative thought patterns that can sabotage our progress.
Exactly. And the script offers some tools for dealing with those negative thoughts. It encourages us to observe them without judgment, to acknowledge their presence without getting caught up in their stories.
So it's about learning to detach from those thoughts, to see them as passing clouds in the sky rather than permanent fixtures.
Precisely. And as we learn to do this, we create more space for peace, clarity, and joy to emerge. The script reminds us that the darkness is never permanent. The sun is always shining behind the clouds, waiting for the right moment to break through.
That's a beautiful image. And it brings us back to the importance of trust, doesn't it? Trusting the process, trusting ourselves, and trusting that even in the darkest of times, there's a light within us that can never be extinguished.
You've hit the nail on the head. And the Soul Stream script reminds us that this trust is not blind faith. It's a deep knowing that emerges from our own experience. A recognition that we are not separate from the source of all life, all love, and all wisdom.
That's a powerful message and one that I think a lot of people need to hear. We're not alone in this journey. There's a force greater than ourselves that's always guiding and supporting us, even when we can't see it or feel it.
And as we surrender to that force, as we let go of the illusion of separation and embrace the interconnectedness of it all, we discover a love and a joy that's beyond anything we could have ever imagined.
I feel like we've really delved into the heart of this Soul Stream script now, exploring not just the concepts, but the lived experience of this journey of losing yourself to find everything both inspiring and daunting, hopeful and humbling all at the same time.
It's a paradox, for sure, but it's a paradox that's worth embracing.
Before we wrap up, I'm curious to hear what the Soulstream script has to say about the practical applications of these concepts. We've talked a lot about the inner journey, but how does this translate into our everyday lives?
That's a great question, and it's one that the script addresses directly. It emphasizes that this journey is not meant to be lived in isolation. It's about bringing these insights and practices into every aspect of our lives, from our relationships to our work to our engagement with the world around us.
So it's not about escaping from the world, but about transforming the world from the inside out.
Exactly. And the script offers some concrete examples of what this might look like.
I'm all ears. What are some of those examples?
Well, in terms of relationships, the script encourages us to practice compassion and forgiveness, to see the divinity in others even when they're behaving in ways that trigger us.
So it's about responding to challenges with love rather than reacting with fear or anger.
Precisely. And in terms of work, the script encourages us to find purpose and meaning in what we do, to see our work as a form of service to the world rather than simply a means to an end.
So it's about aligning our actions with our values, finding a way to express our unique gifts and talents in a way that benefits others.
Exactly. And in terms of our engagement with the world around us, the script encourages us to practice mindful consumption, to be aware of the impact our choices have on the environment and on other beings.
So it's about living in a way that's aligned with our values of sustainability, compassion, and interconnectedness.
Precisely. And the script emphasizes that these are just a few examples. There are countless ways to integrate these principles into our daily lives, and the specific ways we choose to do so will be unique to each individual.
That makes sense. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to spiritual living. What matters is that we find ways to express our unique understanding of these principles in a way that's authentic to us.
And that brings us back to the importance of self-discovery and experimentation. The Soul Streams script doesn't offer a prescriptive roadmap, but it does encourage us to explore different paths, to try different practices, and to trust our own inner guidance.
So it's about becoming our own spiritual teachers, learning to discern what resonates with us and what doesn't.
Exactly. And the script reminds us that this process is ongoing. There's always more to learn, more to discover, and more to integrate.
I feel like we've covered so much ground in this deep dive. It's amazing how much depth and richness there is to this concept of losing yourself to find everything.
It's a journey that never ends, really. There's always another layer to peel back, another insight, to uncover another level of awareness to experience.
And that's what makes it so exciting, isn't it? The knowing that there's always more to discover, more to become, more to love.
It's a journey that's filled with infinite possibilities.
I think it's time to wrap up this part of our deep dive. We've explored a lot of ground, and I'm sure our listener is eager to hear how the Soulstreams script brings all of this together in its conclusion. Okay, so we've unpacked the core concepts of the Soulstream script and explored the signs of progress. And even touched on the challenges and the practical applications of this whole losing yourself idea. But what's the overall takeaway? What's the script's ultimate message?
Well, the script doesn't offer a neat and tidy conclusion, which I kind of appreciate. Instead, it ends with a powerful call to action, urging listeners to actively participate in this process of self-discovery and surrender. It's not about passively absorbing information. It's about embodying these principles in our daily lives.
That makes sense. It's one thing to talk about these concepts, but it's a whole other thing entirely to actually live them. So how does the script encourage listeners to take that leap from theory to practice?
Well, it uses this beautiful metaphor of a dancer becoming one with the dance. It's not about rigidly following steps or striving for perfection. It's about surrendering to the flow, allowing the movement to take over and trusting that our inner wisdom will guide us.
It's like saying that the path to losing yourself isn't like a linear progression. It's more like a fluid and ever-changing dance with the universe.
Exactly. And that surrender, that willingness to let go of control and embrace the unknown, that's ultimately what allows us to tap into that state of unchanging consciousness we've been talking about.
Yeah. The script even goes so far as to say that in losing ourselves, we gain the universe.
Yeah.
It's a pretty bold statement for sure. But what does it actually mean?
Well, it's about recognizing that our true nature is not limited to this individual ego, this small self that we identify with. We were part of something much vaster, something interconnected and infinite. And when we let go of the illusion of separation, we open ourselves up to that boundless realm of possibilities.
It's like saying that the walls we've built around ourselves are actually illusions. And when we break them down, we discover that we've been living in a prison of our own making.
Precisely. And the Soul Streams script suggests that true freedom lies not in accumulating more possessions, achievements, or experiences, but in letting go of everything that's been keeping us tethered to this limited sense of self.
It's a pretty radical idea, but also incredibly liberating, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It challenges our conventional notions of identity and fulfillment, inviting us to question everything we thought we knew about ourselves and the world around us.
And it all circles back to that initial paradox we discussed, the idea that in losing ourselves, we actually find our true selves. It's like saying that the path to wholeness lies in letting go of everything we thought we knew, everything we clung to for a sense of security and identity.
It's about surrendering to the mystery of life, embracing the unknown, and trusting that something greater is always guiding us, even when we can't see the path ahead.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into this thought-provoking script, I want to leave our listener with a question. It's a question inspired by the Soul Streams material, but one that goes even deeper, inviting you to contemplate what it truly means to lose yourself and what you might discover on the other side of that surrender.
Imagine for a moment that you could let go of all the labels, beliefs, and identities that you've held onto for so long. What if, in that letting go, you uncovered a limitless wellspring of creativity, joy, and love within yourself?
What if, in surrendering to the unknown, you discovered that you're not just a drop in the ocean, but the entire ocean itself? What would that feel like? What would that mean for your life, your relationships, your purpose in the world?
These are questions worth pondering. And the most exciting part is that there's no right or wrong answer. The journey itself is the reward.
So keep exploring, keep questioning, and most importantly, keep surrendering to the unfolding mystery of who you truly are.
Because in that surrender lies the key to unlocking your infinite potential and experiencing the boundless joy of simply being.
That's it for our deep dive today. Until next time, may your journey be filled with wonder discovery and the boundless freedom that comes from losing yourself to find everything.
And may you always remember that you are not just a wave in the ocean, but the entire ocean expressing itself in wave form. You are limitless, you are eternal, and you are already whole.
We'll leave you with that thought. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep exploring the infinite possibilities within yourself.